Chiefs running back Damien Williams has opted out. Patrick Mahomes is the fourth best player in the NFL, and look who's getting the ball for the Royals home opener on Friday. All of these topics are covered by the beat writers on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, July 30th, and I'm Blair Kerkhoff. First, we'll hear from Herbie Teope on how the Chiefs are going to cover Damien Williams' decision not to play this season because of COVID-19. Williams joins a growing list of NFL players taking this path. We also talk about Mahomes' ranking as the fourth best player in the NFL, and Herbie explains the process. This ranking makes a little more sense when you hear this. After a break, Royals beat writer Lynn Worthy checks in from the road. He's in Detroit to cover the final game of the Royals' season-opening road trip before the team returns for its home opener on Friday. We talk about the team's surprise starting pitcher for that game, second-year pro Kris Bubic, and we talk about what's been to like and not like about the Royals' start to this season. But first, here's Herbie Teope on the Chiefs. Hey, Herbie, were you as surprised by the news of Damien Williams as most people seem to have been?
Yeah, I will tell you this. I kind of figured that, when you look around the NFL, there are a lot of players who are now taking going that route of the voluntary opt-out. Obviously, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif kicked it off. He was the first NFL player, first Chiefs player. But then on Wednesday, we saw a lot of players around the league, including some big-name players. Patrick Chung, the safety from the Patriots, Nate Solder from the New York Giants, one of the elite left tackles. Damien Williams surprised me. I didn't, I kind of figured, again, that another Chief would do it. I just didn't think it would be him.
And we don't know the reason. We don't know if there was some family reason. The only hint that we have was the release that the Chiefs put out with a Brett Veach quote that said, we just wish him and his family well. So you wonder if there is some family issue here, but we just don't know. But you're right. This is a trend now, and I don't think we've seen the last of this. We're starting actually to see it in college football too. There was a Virginia Tech player, a guy who's an NFL prospect, said he was opting out on this season. So I don't know. For the Chiefs, it was, again, a surprise. Let's talk about what Damien Williams has meant to this offense the last couple of years. My first impression is during the regular season, a little bit, during the postseason, quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. He's the NFL's version of Mr. October. And, of course, now I'm showing my age, and you get that reference. But for all the youngins out there, I'm talking about Reggie Jackson from the 70s and 80s. Mr. October, he always came through in the postseason, and that's what Damien Williams did. Think about this, man. I mean, in the three games in the postseason, last year when the Chiefs made that path to the Super Bowl, 291 total yards, 196 rushing, and 6 touchdowns in 3 games. And that included the 133 total yards and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl win against the San Francisco 49ers. He only had 498 yards rushing during the season, but he also missed 5 games. And it's kind of weird when you think about this. The 498 yards rushing led the team. So he obviously means a lot to the offense, but certainly you're going to miss his presence during the postseason if this past postseason and the year before are any indication.
There were some people who thought he should have been the Super Bowl MVP because of that performance. And keep in mind, he scored the Chiefs' last 2 touchdowns, right? On the reception, the short pass from Mahomes that he stuck the ball out over the pylon, and then the clinching touchdown, I think it was the 38-yard run with about a minute to go that clinched. So he had the final 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, over 100 yards rushing. And you're right, 498 rushing during the regular season led the team. And 2 of those runs were a 91-yarder against the Vikings and an 84-yarder against the Chargers. So 170 yards of his 490 came on 2 carries. So it says a couple things, right? That it wasn't a run dominant Chiefs offense, as it hasn't been since, for a long time. But also each of the last 2 years, Damien Williams is really, he's competed to be the feature back. 2 years ago, Kareem Hunt entered the season as a starter, was kicked off the team after 9 or 10 games. Spencer Ware took over for a handful of games. He got hurt. And then it was Damien Williams that took over the last 3 games of the 2018 regular season. And then he had 2 really, really good games in the playoffs against the Colts and the Patriots. And last year, LaShawn McCoy was sharing feature back, responsibility with Damien Williams. LaShawn ended up with like 460 yards rushing. So he didn't neither one of these regular seasons with the Chiefs was he like a Pro Bowl quality back. But man, when it came to the playoff games, 5 playoff games, he was just fantastic. He has 10 total touchdowns in the playoffs, which is a Chiefs record. So where do the Chiefs go from here at running back? I think a lot of people are saying Andy Reid and the Chiefs were pretty shrewd when it came to the draft this year.
Yeah, that first-round selection of rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU really, truly looms large right now. And you got to expect that he will be the guy that they're going to lean on immediately. When you think of the current depth chart right now, you've got Edwards-Helaire, Darwin Thompson, Darrell Williams, DeAndre Washington, and Elijah McGuire, who spent time on the practice squad last year. But of that group, who gives you the most explosiveness out of the backfield? And it's got to be that rookie Edwards-Helaire. I like the fact that when we talked to him last week, he had mentioned, and our colleague Sam McDowell wrote up the story on him, or excuse me, our intern Andrew Golden wrote up the story on him.
Yeah, Andrew did.
How he's grasped the playbook, how he's used this offseason, despite all the challenges, how he's grasping the playbook. But the thing that really jumps out to me is he spent time with Patrick Mahomes working out and training. And I think that's not only going to help him as a running back, but also as a receiver out of the backfield, because quarterbacks have to have that chemistry with a receiver. And that's going to help this game, the Chiefs offense out immensely.
Hey, so when the Chiefs lost Laurent Duvernay-Tardif for the opt-out, within a couple days we saw them sign Kelechi Osemele. Do you think the Chiefs reach out and find a running back here?
I don't think so, for one main reason, because the teams have to be at 80 players before the first padded practice. Let's keep in mind, just last week, the NFL and NFLPA made an adjustment to the CBA because of COVID-19 and how they're going to handle the training camp rosters. Teams had 2 options. They could keep 90 players now, but by their first padded practice, which for the Chiefs, we don't have a schedule, but when you look at the calendar, it projects us August the 14th. So by then, they have to be at 80 players. Right now, by my count, they're at 81, which includes all the cuts they made yesterday. They have to make a corresponding roster move because they agreed to terms with veteran safety Tedrick Thompson. I think Andy Reid and what's going on right now with COVID and knowing that you have to hit the regular season with players that as opposed to the unknown, they're probably content with what they have. Of course, anything can and will happen. They might decide that, hey, we do need a running back. But as of right now, because they're close to 80 players, I can't see that happening right now.
Okay. Hey, so let me ask you this question. I wondered about this. Later in the show, we're going to talk to Lynn Worthy, who covers the Royals. And, of course, the Royals have had their share of dealing with the COVID-19. And in baseball, they've gone through the opt-outs as well. And now we're seeing it in football. In baseball, players who have opted out can come back in. That's not the case with football in the NFL, right? Once you've opted out, you're done for the season. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. And the key thing here is for the players, their contract. Like, for example, Damien Williams, this would have been his final year of this deal because the Chiefs exercised an option on him. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, this would have been the final year of this deal. But both of those players are not playing. So with the new agreement under the CBA with the NFL and NFLPA, their contracts roll over to next year. So they're not like some people are saying, oh, they're finished with the Chiefs because this was the last year. No, they're going to be like as if they didn't play because they will not accrue a season this year.
So essentially they're signed through 2021.
Correct.
Okay. Hey, and you mentioned Tedrick Thompson just a moment ago, the safety. Chiefs picked him up. What do you think the rationale was behind signing him?
And here's the key thing. And even though I know Juan Thornhill and has been working out, he's posting photos on his Twitter page and also Instagram. Andy Reid earlier in the offseason said, hey, he's on track. I think this is a depth move because Tedrick Thompson can play free safety. The Chiefs are set at strong safety with Tyrann Mathieu, but they need the depth behind Juan Thornhill just in case he's not ready to go full go when they go to padded practices. So I think this is a good move because you've got a player who understands. He's played 3 years up in Seattle, so he's a veteran who gives you starter ability because he started 16 games over the past 2 years. Durability, though, with this guy is a concern because he's also missed quite a few games. But if he's healthy, he gives you depth.
Gotcha. Okay, let's wrap this up with the final observation here of the Damien Williams news came down on Wednesday afternoon, and that was, of course, the big Chiefs story until the evening when it was revealed that in the NFL's top 100 rankings, Patrick Mahomes came in fourth. Boy, I'll tell you what a social media firestorm that created. All of a sudden, for the second straight day, Patrick Mahomes is trending on Twitter. The previous day, of course, was because he gained the ownership stake in the Kansas City Royals, and this time it's for his ranking on the NFL's top 100. Look, rankings are silly, but they're very interesting. We all partake in them. I've been a top 25 college football voter and college basketball voter almost my entire life. Those are silly, but they exist because people are interested in them, and people were interested in the NFL's top 100. So did you follow any of the social media hubbub over this, and what did you make of
it? Here's what people need to understand about the top 100 list, because the voting process actually starts during the regular season, and players are given ballots throughout the season, and they collect them at the end of the year. So the voting process happened without the benefit of watching Patrick Mahomes' magical postseason run. During the regular season of 2019, there was another quarterback, and coincidentally, he finished number one, who was taking the league by storm. And obviously, we're talking about Lamar Jackson. So it didn't surprise me when he made number one, because people are going to go with the known. The players are human. They're going to go with what's being out there right now. Patrick Mahomes' name never came up during the 2019 regular season as an MVP because Lamar Jackson was doing his thing. So it did not surprise me, but you're absolutely correct about lists. Take it with a grain of salt. We know Patrick Mahomes is not the fourth best player in the NFL. He's arguably number one. But also understand the voting process. It happened during the regular season, and if you're in a locker room, sometimes you'll see personnel from the NFL collecting ballots, and that's when it happens.
That's a great point, Herbie. I'm not sure how much that's understood, that it happens during the regular season. And yeah, look, Mahomes was not the MVP in 2019. He was in 2018, and he was still number four. That it's probably more difficult to explain the 2018 voting than the 2019 voting when it comes to, Mahomes' place on the list. So,
yeah, and when you think about this, the top two players were Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson. And throughout the 2019 regular season, we always heard who are the top, who's the MVP, and it always came down between Wilson and Jackson. So, players are going to vote with what's being out there and what's being pushed.
Yep. Aaron Donald came in number three, the Rams defensive tackle, and then Mahomes. And I did see a tweet from Mahomes on Wednesday night where he, just a little icon that said, or an emoji that said note, like he's taking notes. He noted that he was number four. And the significance of that to me is I go back to the Monday night game in Chicago late in the season when he scored. Was it after a rushing touchdown? I can't remember, but he counted the 10 on his fingers, right?
Yes. Hey, to use a Game of Thrones reference, the North remembers, baby.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him count to four at some point in the 2020 season. Here's hoping that there is a 2020 football season. So, all right, Herbie, thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Blair.
Break huddle at the 5 of San Francisco. It's third down and goal. They trail by 3. Under 3 to go in the fourth quarter. Mahomes maneuvers Hill. 4 wide. Mahomes in the gun. Shotgun snap. Fakes the handoff. Rolls and throws a gentle pass. Caught with the leap at the 5 to the pylon on the near side by Williams. Touchdown! He got in! The Chiefs have taken the lead in Super Bowl 54. Under center Mahomes, second down, 6 from the 38. Handoff to Williams, got a block from the fullback. He's at the 35, the 30, breaks a tackle on the sideline, 20, chasing him down the sideline, the 10, the 5, touchdown! That's it! That's it!
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Lynn Worthy covers the Royals for the Kansas City Star. And Lynn, I was going to go a different direction to open our conversation until just a few minutes ago, when I saw you tweet out that the Royals now have an opening day starting pitcher. I went to bed last night looking at the probable pitching matchups for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the Royals home opening series, and it said TBA on all of them. And now at least we know Friday's opening day starter, and it is a bit of surprise. Tell us who it is.
Yes, starting the home opener will be Kris Bubic, the left-hander who hasn't pitched above high A. He was in the Futures game last year along with Brady Singer, but he'll make his big league debut and Friday night in the home opener for the Kansas City Royals. Yeah,
but it's everything about this season is unusual. How have the Royals come to a place where that a second-year pro is going to start in what is always a pretty high-profile game?
Well, part of it is just attrition. Part of it
exactly,
and
right.
That's not anything against Bubic, but part of it's attrition where Brad Keller is still on the injured list, Jacob Junis still on the injured list. Both of them had bouts with COVID that interrupted their spring training 2.0 or summer camp, whichever you want to call it. And then earlier this week, Mike Montgomery was added to the injured list. Now, this is a team that going into spring training, the original spring training, had 4 starters, and normally you want 5. So that was
right.
There was already some a spot to fill, at least on paper. And now you've taken 3 of the 4 that you knew you had penciled in that you were counting on, and they're all out. And so you've added Brady Singer, another rookie, another one of their top draft picks from 2018, that draft class 2018 that's been talked about a lot, and this has the 4 top picks for all pitchers and guys who are sort of knocking on the door, Bubic being one of them. But even with that, you've got Duffy and you've got Singer, and then it's, fill in the rest. And
yeah,
as of today, Kris Bubic is going to be one of those guys who fills in right now. So, but yeah, they've gone with openers. They've talked about Ronald Bolaños being a guy that they've been trying to stretch out and have him start again because he started in the past. But then there was these 4 guys who they drafted who were all highly thought of, that only one of them had been in the big league so far, and so now we're starting to get to see number 2, and who knows before we see 3 and 4.
Right. So I was reading Royals notes last night as I was watching the loss to the Tigers, and there's a note in there that says that the Royals and the Pittsburgh Pirates have each used 18 pitchers this season, tied for the most in baseball. And unless the Pirates use someone else last night, someone else new, or will use someone else tomorrow new, the Royals will take the lead with Kris Bubic becoming at least the 19th new arm to throw for the Royals this year. That's incredible.
I was going to say, is it only a 19? It seems like we've seen some everybody out there, but yeah, it's I believe it. I mean, and I expect that number to keep growing. I mean, because there's, with the roster still stretched out for at least another week. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more guys, especially in the bullpen, and just with everything that's going on with the. And that number doesn't include the guys that you expect, and if you're the Royals, you hope are coming back with Keller and Junis. So
right, exactly. It is. It's been something. So, listen, I'm trying to. The Royals lost again last night to the Detroit Tigers. They finish up their season opening 7-game road trip tonight against Detroit before the home opener Friday. And it's hard. It's difficult to draw conclusions, it seems to me, from the first 6 games. The previous 2 unfolded in disappointing fashion for the Royals, taking leads and losing those leads, and having the offense really dry up in the last several innings of those games. They jumped. They hit. Swung the bats well the first 3 or 4 innings each of the last couple nights. And then really could not battle back against the Tigers bullpen in those games. On Tuesday night, you had the Whit Merrifield 3-run homer, and they end up losing 4-3. And then, of course, last night they lose a 4-0 lead pretty quickly, and ended up dropping that game as well. What does Mike Matheny say about the Royals' inability to close out these games?
It seems like it's not necessarily the same exact script, but it's similar scripts, at least the last couple of nights, like you said. One being that, they're able to get out and score some runs early, and then they just can't hold on to the lead. I mean, I think, was it 2 nights ago? We're talking on Thursday, so I think it was 2 nights ago. They had the lead for maybe an inning. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was half inning. Yeah, it was half inning.
Merrifield had the 3-run homer in the top of the 3rd, and then the Tigers came back with a pair of 2-run homers in the bottom. So
yeah, and it's the thing that Matheny has talked about even before these last couple of games was the mistakes that they're making as far as putting guys on base, keep coming back to haunt them, this is something that he was talking about at the beginning of spring training in Arizona, the free bases. I mean, I know he's been talking about that, whether that's walk, whether that's hitting guys, whether that's errors. And then, a game or 2 into the season, I think it was, you already saw that, or actually it may be going back to the exhibition games where you saw that, costing them runs multiple times. And then you see it into the season. And that, I know that's the thing that frustrates him, is that, he's been talking about since as soon as basically he got the job. Yeah. It was like he got introductory press conferences and then started talking about we can't give up free bases. It was basically that quick for him. And then they've done it early in the season and they've paid for it just about each time. And that's the thing that's most frustrating to him, because it's been, it hasn't just been a home run. It's been, you put a guy on, you hit a batter, and then you give up a 2-run home run. And then you do a walk and give up a 2-run home run. So that's the part that's frustrating on the defense and pitching side, because some of those have been errors too. There's been one of the previous games, I think the first couple of runs were unearned runs. I think Bolaño started the game where he gave up 2 runs, but they're both unearned. So, and then offensively, they just, for whatever reason, haven't been able to sort of make hay when the bullpen comes in. Because both teams have had to go to their bullpen pretty regularly, and for that matter, the Royals bullpen has been done pretty well. I mean, last night Kennedy gave up that 1 home run, but I mean, you think about most of these games, all the scoring's been done early, and then it's just been bullpens shutting it down on both sides for the majority of the rest of the game. So yeah, it's just been a frustrating in multiple levels to start off this first week.
Yeah, to your point, the inning that got Duffy in trouble, and Duffy had a fantastic start to the game, was terrific. But the inning that got him it started with a walk based on balls. And by the time the inning was over, the Royals had given up all of their lead. And Duffy ended up on a night when it looked like he would get a W and get the game the way he was throwing the first three innings, get the game into the sixth or seventh. He's out in the fifth, and it was a walk that started the damage for him. So, hey, and on the flip side of that, the Royals are on the offensive side. They certainly have flexed their muscles, shown some power. The 6 home run game on, I guess, Monday in Detroit was phenomenal, tied a club record with 6 homers in a game. But they're not taking walks. Their on base percentage as a team is really low, among the lowest in the American League. So, yeah, they've been getting the ball over the wall, and heck, a couple 3-run homers even. But for the most part, it's not. They're not putting together rallies, right? They're not having 3 and 4 hit innings, or throwing a walk or reach on an error sort of thing. They just, they'll get a guy on, hit a home run, and look, nobody's sneezing at that, but it's they just don't seem to put together some of those keep the line moving rallies that the club was known for. And it seems to me that this lineup can be adept at it's deeper than it was last year. And even though I do think they miss Hunter Dozier to make this lineup even deeper, they have the ability to string some hits together and some offense together, and it just doesn't seem to happen for them.
Yeah, and they've shown little bits of it. I mean, I think the other night, I don't remember if it was last night or the night before. I'm starting to run together for me. I think it was, it had to be.
Yeah.
But they had a 2-run inning that was all on singles, if I remember correctly. I think it was they scored. It was the day they scored 4 runs in the first. I think 3 or 4 innings. They scored in the first 3 innings. It was 1 run, and then 2 runs. And the 2-run inning, I think it was 4 singles. It was like a Merrifield single. Trying to remember if it was Soler, and then you had an RBI single by somebody, an RBI single, and that's where the 2 runs came from. And then the other night before Franco's, I want to say, second home run in the big inning. They had, 2 guys on. They got the 2 outs, and then Ryan O'Hearn, his first game back, had a 2-run single. And so, you've seen just a little bit of that, which you'd like to think that they could keep going. But then, especially when you talk about the numbers for the season, you say on base and the strikeouts and everything. That Cleveland series just really tipped those scales, because they had the 2 games where they were, I think it was 15 plus strikeouts in 2 of those games. And so it's, you think it's in there. You wonder if they have a full lineup and Dozier and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is the season of COVID, so I don't know if you're going to count on full lineups. That just might not be. I mean, that's baseball in 2020. You might not have full lineups. I mean, you look around the league, and that's the case for a lot of teams. But you'd think with a guy like Dozier in there, and you lengthen that lineup. And we've seen, and they've got a couple guys who are just ridiculously hot right now, and Whit Merrifield and Michael Franco. So when those guys come up, you feel pretty confident that they're going to deliver in some way or another. But it's just they haven't pieced it quite together consistently enough. And when they do, they've been able to score runs. Right.
Okay, Lynn, let me ask you this. You're one of the only, if not the only, beat writer who's traveling, who went on this season opening series to Cleveland and Detroit. And now the Royals are coming home for Friday night to start a 3-game series against the White Sox. I just want to know how it's been. Is it, pretty lonely in the press box, I suspect, and there is no open clubhouse for you. No traffic getting to and from the ballpark because there are no fans there. And I'm just wondering take us through covering a game in an empty ballpark.
Well, it's a very different experience than last season. I can say that. For one, I don't typically, at least this year, I haven't typically gotten to the ballpark too early. On a regular season, I'd get to the ballpark probably around by 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock at the latest, depending on what time the clubhouse is going to be open. Because you'll get in, get settled in, you'll go down, meet with the manager, clubhouse will be open, you'll be out there for batting practice. You get when things close the clubhouse and everything closes down for at least a good hour or so before the game. You get something to eat, and then sort of get ready to go. These days, because at least the 2 stadiums we've been to so far, they're not doing There's no open clubhouse. That's universal around baseball. But also,
Right.
you're not, just frankly, they're not doing food and things like that. So I'm not going to get to the ballpark 3 hours before the game and then sit there for 3 hours and not eat. So I typically go later so I can grab something and they let you bring it in with you. So I go later, closer to game time, bring myself something to eat and get in. And we do all our pregame, the meetings that we would have, we do via Zoom with players and with the manager. So you can do that from a hotel room or from your home. You don't have to be in the ballpark for that. I laughed a little bit when you said the press box is empty. Actually, in both of these parks so far, I haven't been in the press box. What they've actually done is they've had, I think these, the writers who are traveling out of town with a pandemic going on, they've sort of politely had us in a separate area in a suite. Usually, actually, what it's been suites. In Cleveland, it was actually a pretty nice suite. In Detroit, not quite as nice, but in a separate area, not in the press box. It's basically right next to the press box, where you're basically watching the game by yourself in a little room, off to the side. So it's really been. I mean, I think in the first game in Cleveland, our columnist Sam Mellinger was there. So it was the two of us off in this little suite that's designed to have, I forget how many people, but. It's just the two of us. And then the rest of the games, it was just myself. And then in Detroit, it's been just myself in the suite overlooking the field.
What an interesting scenario. It'll never be like this again. Fingers crossed, after this year. So we'll have some experience in Kansas City starting on Friday. We'll see how the Royals handle opening day and home games here in Kauffman. I guess they're going to have the cardboard cutouts behind home plate for the TV cameras, and they'll pipe in. I suppose they'll pipe in some crowd noise. You've seen that both in Cleveland and Detroit, the piped in crowd noise.
Yep, in both, and I think it's been a little different in both. I've noticed, at least to my ears, in Detroit, it seems like they've upped the volume. They've sort of tried to make it feel more like a game in terms of when it's a full count and the opposing team's pitchers on the mound, they'll make it even louder. As though the crowd was getting louder, in anticipation of a big pitch or something like that. And it seems like the volume has gone up a little bit more when somebody on Detroit has made gotten a big homer or something like that, as opposed to the opposing team. But yeah, it's been piped in both places. There was a small section in Cleveland, I think, that had some of the cutouts, not like what I've seen on TV or what the pictures I've seen of Kauffman. I think it's going to be a much fuller display in Kauffman. I noticed today on Twitter they even made sure they put the Buck O'Neil seats got a cut out of him. So that's pretty cool.
Right. It is cool. Very cool. All right, Lynn, we will see you when you get back to town, and safe travels.
Thank you.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Savannah Smith, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, and Chris Fickett. Tip of the cap to Herbie Teope and to Lynn Worthy for talking about the Chiefs and the Royals. Links to stories by Herbie and Lynn can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes the Sports Extra on the e-edition. There are 49 additional pages of national sports coverage today. Well, here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage. The details can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Friday with another episode.